Hello everybody and welcome to yet another video on Ragnarok Online Origin Classic. My name is Zero and today we'll be talking about the Professor class. Now this guide has been requested by quite a lot of people and I am finally happy to say it is finally out. I'm also happy to announce that I am beginning to coach for ROO Classic, much like what I have been doing for RO Global. So if you're interested in getting your character optimized and min-maxed for the future, you can join the ROO Classic Coaching Discord in the description below. But now we are going to start talking about Professor. Now, essentially, Professors have two builds. They have the Bolt build, Bolter build, as well as the Psychic Wave build. Now, essentially, both of them run very similar things, but there are stark differences in between them. So we're going to start off with the Psychic Wave build. Now the Psychic Wave is a very strong convertible element skill that can be used in both PvP and PvE in different situations. Now let's talk about the situations first. For Psychic Wave, you can use them primarily against elemental monsters or even against monsters which are not weak to certain elements. If they're neutral, if they're holy, then Psychic Wave is the way to go. But you should only use Psychic Wave is if the monster does not move a lot. If it moves a lot, imagine needing to recast this in multiple locations. Psychic Wave lasts for 7 seconds in a certain area. So if you can stack them continuously on a monster, and if it stays in that position, then that's where you're doing the maximum of damage. But if the boss or the monster or the opponent is moving around a lot, then you're losing out on a lot of DPS from Psychic Wave. So if in that situation, then it's better to use bolts, because if you take a look at this is 8,400 M damage if the monster stays static. But if the monster is constantly moving, then you're only really doing one hit of damage, and bolts will be doing more damage than that. Bolts will be doing 1000 at a 0.4 second cooldown. So in terms of, and this is pre double cast and triple cast as well. So taking that into account, Psychic Wave should be only used when the monster is static. Overall, this is the skill build you can use for both builds. You can use the exact same skill build for PvE for both builds, whether you're using bolts or Psychic Wave. You have 3 levels of your bolts, increase SP recovery over here, second job everything on the left, and then you want to have your Volcano, Deluge, and Violent Gale leveled up, Drain Magic maxed out. Spell casting as well, very important. The Earth Spike for any wind element mobs as well. For the trans job, you just want maxed out Spirit Devastation, Element Insight, Elemental Shield, and Psychic Wave. Everything else can be, you can just add anything else, it doesn't really matter. But that is essentially your PvE build. You can use this exact same skill build for both your bolting and your Psychic Wave build. Now on towards the feathers. The feathers are exactly the same as my High Wizard build. Nothing changes for both PvE and PvP. It's mainly focused on min-maxing available feathers out there. Enchants maintain the same as well. We have the same enchants. It is just going to be magic boon on all your attack ones, on all your accessories and weapon. You have superior M attack on your headgear, backwear, and costume. And for everything else, it doesn't really matter. You can just put in anything you want for PvE. For those that have int, you can get int for a little bit more additional damage. But that is for the enchants. Now, the most important thing is the difference between accessories as well as your divine armament in your book. Spring is a must for your armor set, but for your weapon, if you're using Psychic Wave, you want to use the Intellectual Tablet. The Intellectual Tablet reduces the fixed cast time of Psychic Wave and also increases damage of Psychic Wave as well. Once it reaches level 15, you get additional 15% M damage. For the accessories, for Psychic Wave specifically, you want to use the Expert Rings, 2 of them in fact, to maximize the reduction on your global cooldown. For Professors right now, it is impossible to reach 40%, so any increase will be increasing your DPS. Now this has been tested in comparison with 2 Orleans or even 1 Orlean, and double Expert Ring has been showing increased DPS on this test. Card wise, it remains the same. For any PvE card, you're gonna want You're gonna want your size race cards here. You want Argos here for increase M attack from the intelligence. Armor card doesn't really matter. Cloak card doesn't really matter. Shoe card doesn't really matter as well, but you can put in anything else. Accessories, you can put in Wraith or Greatest General, depending on what you have. If you don't have any of those, you can go for Taro or Marine Spear for additional fire damage if you're hitting against an Earth mob. Big gear, you can just go for double cramps. I use these Illusion Orc Hero and Marduk for season for Freya Night for the Temple of Nightmare, because there's a lot of silence and stuns there, so I use this for the flipping floor, and the others don't really matter until you get them. They are pretty much standard. So this is the Psychic Wave build. Talking about the Bolt build, it is going to be very similar of that of the Psychic Wave build, except now that you don't need the global cooldown reduction. You can use double Orleans as well as the Element Fountain magic book on your weapon. Now, why not expert rings? Is because bolts have no global cooldown. You don't need any global cooldown to reduce the time spent to cast your skills. In auto, you only put in whatever bolts that is required depending on the element of the enemy. Earth Spike for win, and everything else should not be in your auto. Something important to note as well is that if you're using primarily bolts, you don't need any dex at all, because dex is not required for casting bolts. Bolts have a very low fixed cast time, which will barely be reduced by any dex, so you can just go 99 int and high luck for additional M attack for the bolt build. Now let's talk about the PvP build a little bit, because I do tend to run a very hybrid PvP build over here depending on the situation. Now, if you are playing in Dimensional Drill, which has situations where it is both AoE or single target, what I like to do is I like to primarily focus on the bolts. I use Element Fountain Magic Book and Orleans Gloves on the accessories. But then I also will be casting Psychic Wave depending on the situation. If the opponent will be moving a lot, I will not be casting Psychic Wave, but the opponent is just sticking together under certain heals, then I will not be using, then I will be spamming Psychic Wave, or the extra duration doesn't really matter, because the Psychic Wave there is to primarily force them to split up, to force them to not play together, and that's what the Psychic Wave will be for. For large-scale PvP, such as Imperium Overrun and Guild League, I prefer to use the pure Psychic Wave build. That involves using the Expert Rings as well as Intellectual Tablet, and your main DPS skill will be the Psychic Wave at a 0.4 second cast time. Other important PvP skills also include things like Firewall. Using Firewall, you will be able to create a wall where melee classes cannot try and go for you. This also helps out in blocking entrances in WoE or in Imperium Overrun or in Guild League as well. These create an impassable wall that people cannot walk through. Other important PvP skills also include Land Protector, which is one of the most important skills for that is used by professors. You will create an area where enemies cannot cast ground casted skills. That includes Meteor Storm, Stormgust, or Vermilion, Sanctuary, and a bunch of other land protector skills as well. Now, this can be removed by Ganbantin on high wizards, but that should provide you a little bit of a breathing room for you to be able to sustain and heal and protect yourself from AoE damage while your opponent tries to break through. Now, this is going to be very important to use, because you don't want to use it in a bad position. You want to use it safely. Let's say if your opponents are this luxury merchant, you don't want to cast it exactly on yourself, because that means that if the opponent just pushes forward, they will be protected by your own land protector, and then you can't cast Psychic Wave on top of it. The other two important PvP skills are also Dispel, which removes all job buffs from the enemy player, as well as Spiderweb, which stops your opponent from moving. Now, Spiderweb's immobilized duration is reduced depending on the opponent's VIT, but it is still a good CC skill that allows you to you can Spiderweb into Psychic Wave to allow them to take more damage, or you can set up your Paladins, or you can set up your High Wizards to do a lot more damage as well. For PvP, my cards are very similar to that of the High Wizard. It's going to be double Hydra here eventually. Now I don't have any of them yet. Double Tarafrog for the shield. You want any armor card really. I use Sasquatch to prevent GXs from being able to stick to me. The main problem with Sorcerer is that they don't have any movement skills, so you have to rely on survivability to be able to survive damage. Dustiness for Lord Vermilion or Lightning Bolt spammers. Um, Moonlight Flower and Infernal Nightmare just because I have it. Rave cards on your accessories. Headgear is going to be the Orc, Hero Illusion, and Marduk. Faceware is going to eventually be Goblin Leaders. Mouthwear is going to be eventually Doppelganger Puppets. Backwear and costume are going to be the PvP stat ones, but before we get that, now those are just going to be empty. Enchant wise, it's going to be pretty much the same as the High Wizard as well. PvP technique where available, you want your magic boons where available, and the rest is just going to be Vit or PDEF or Crit Rest depending on what build you are running. Now another two important skills for professors are the Energy Code, which reduces damage taken, as well as the Elemental Shield, which is going to give you 50% P damage and damage reduction and control immunity for 5 seconds, and the cooldown is only 8 seconds, which means that you have only a 3-second downtime for Elemental Shield. A very good tip I can give you guys is that you can put both skills in your skill bar, and that allows you to click on them with only one key. Now you see, you can use both skills with only one key, and you can use them together. That allows you to quickly get your resistance up and provide you with a little survivability. Additional notes is that your Psychic Wave can be converted with Elemental Scrolls. So what I like to do in PvP is I will use an Earth Elemental Scroll and primarily use Lightning Bolt, so that if they see me use Lightning Bolt, they will be baited to use Dokebi, and then that means that my Psychic Wave will be chunking them for a huge amount of damage. That pretty much wraps up this professor guide. The rest you guys will be able to learn as you play the class a little bit more often. Until then, guys, hope to see you guys in the next one. This is going to be Zero, and the professor guide signing out. Peace.